67% of people feel that they can't trust journalists anymore. Before we get into the video, I just want to say, please guys, make sure you watch the video. Give me a few minutes to explain myself. You're going to learn something in this video. If you haven't done so already, please click subscribe. I know you have that itch of, you want that dopamine hit, right, to click onto the next video, but just wait and make sure you click subscribe if you haven't done so already. So let's get straight into the video. Okay, so the BBC have gone to Andrew Tate's house in Romania. They've gone in and they've tried to do this hit piece on him, because it's not really an interview, right? It was a hit piece. It was a hit piece because they came in with loaded questions, one agenda, and there was no positivity. Now, there was a time in journalism where what used to happen was you'd go and interview somebody, you'd get a backstory in them, you'd challenge them respectfully, okay? And you'd talk some positives with them, you'd have a dialogue, and you'd have this discourse that happens. But what's happened is we now live in a day and age where everything is about clicks and views, okay? And because it's all about clicks and views, they want controversy. Now, the media wanted controversy for a while, but not to this level and this extent. And not just that, they're also pushing a certain agenda. Now, the BBC, I want to reiterate, are not the worst platform that is out there. They actually have a lot of good stuff. And if you look at the history of the BBC, they have actually been one of the lesser biased media outlets. Now, I know in my last video, I was a little bit emotional and I got a bit pissed off, but the BBC are not the worst. But what we're seeing is this lack of trust in the media outlets. Year on year on year, the trust, the credibility of the mainstream media is falling. We can see this before our very eyes. Now, what does this mean? Well, this means that you now have other outlets. Twitter is one of the best examples, which now have the option to be able to recruit people like Tucker Carlson, okay, in the United States. Now, the thing is this, Elon Musk is another person who had an interview with the BBC. And what happened when Elon Musk did his interview with the BBC? He went live on Twitter Spaces. The same way Andrew Tate recorded the interview in its entirety, Elon Musk took his interview with the BBC, put it onto Twitter Spaces and went live. And he as well, I'm not going to say beheaded, he disintegrated the BBC completely in that interview. Why? Because what happened was the BBC again had an agenda. They had an agenda and they said, oh, hate speech is increasing on Twitter without any statistical evidence, without even an example. And that's exactly what Elon Musk did. He asked for an example. And when the journalist didn't even have an example, man, you could have made one up, right? He got destroyed. He got destroyed because Elon Musk was like, you can't even give me one example of hate speech. So the thing is this, right? Look, we're seeing this decline in mainstream media and this uprise of social media, and Twitter has found this, is trying to fill this vacuum under Elon Musk, right? Where on Twitter you have different people, okay, giving different news reports, and there's now fact checking which takes place on Twitter. And the way that works, from a basic, a rudimentary understanding of mine, is somebody puts something up, and let's say for example it's a photoshopped picture, there'll be a community section in the bottom or something that appears, and it basically shows you that that picture has been photoshopped or it's fake, right? So there's some level of interrogation that takes place there on the tweets. But this is not just the situation with Andrew Tate and Elon Musk, right? This is also on the flip side. You have Philip Schofield, right, with his scandal that's taking place on the ITV. The BBC cover-ups over the years, okay? The what's his name, who did the video Leaving Neverland with Michael Jackson? Martin Bashir. He was also one of the main products of the BBC, right? He was quite, involved with the BBC and, early in his career. But this just goes to show you, this is a trend that is taking place with the BBC. Now, I just want to reiterate, the BBC is not the worst platform that is out there. There are other ones, okay? If you look at the history of the BBC, they have put out 50-50 arguments. Now, let me explain what I mean by this. In the world, there are certain regions which are in conflict. I don't want to mention them, but let's say, for example, and I'm sure you guys will clock on which one and where I'm talking about. Let's say, for example, you have a country, and then you have a group of people, and there's like an apartheid system taking place there, and they battle with each other. But the country, who has a full-on army and a full arsenal of weaponry, are attacking that group of people and killing children, and the statistics show clearly that the battle isn't fair. But the BBC or any media outlet report, oh, there was killing on this side, there was killing on this side. Well, although you're doing 50-50 reporting, you're doing 50-50 reporting on an argument that should be more 80-20. Do you see what I mean? That is a way that mainstream media can mislead. Now, I'm not talking specifically about the BBC here. I'm not accusing the BBC of anything. But what I am saying is mainstream media outlets use that as a tool to misguide the public. So when you look at the situation, you look at a war taking place, it could be that there is one side that is mainly to blame for that war or that battle or that skirmish taking place, and the other side is not so much to blame. They are retaliating, they are defending themselves, but the mainstream media outlets, what they will do is show you it in a way where they show you videos and clips and case studies. Now, what do I mean by case studies? What I mean is this. Let's say, for example, right, I'm showing you a video of sharks in the ocean, constantly bombarding you with it. What's going to happen is subconsciously in your brain, you are going to be nervous about getting into the ocean because you think there's sharks in there which are going to kill you. Even though shark attacks are so minimal, if I continue to show you that, I curate your reality. I curate what is in your world. Even though that is not really the case, you will start to believe that it's the case. See my point? This is what the mainstream media do. Another thing that they do, another tool that they use, is that they will black out something that's happening in the world. So let's say, for example, right, there is a rally or there is a protest, and the mainstream media do not give it any relevance or any light and don't put it onto their channels. What that's doing is they're not reporting on it, so the people won't be made aware of it. But then if they report something else that is happening in contrast to that one, in contrast to that protest, they give light to that one. That's biased reporting. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that the BBC do this. The BBC are actually quite good at giving somewhat of a balanced argument, but they're also guilty of this. Now, we spoke about the interviews, right? What they need to do is when they interview these figures like Elon Musk and Andrew Tate, the mainstream media, my advice would be you need to build credibility, because the like to dislike ratio on the video of Andrew Tate with the BBC was insane. So insane that they had to take it off. It got so many dislikes. And the reason is because there was no structure to the interview, there was no balance. And they could have spoken about the positive things that Andrew Tate is doing as well. They didn't have to go 50-50. They could have given it 80-20, 70-30, but they could have at least touched and shown that they are trying to be balanced in their approach. At least said, okay, well, you know, there is a large contingent of men who follow you. Okay, why do you think it is that they follow you? Okay, you are giving charity. Why are you giving charity? All right. They did that somewhat, but the twist they put on it was very negative, and they could have done a better. They could have done far better. I felt like Piers Morgan did a better interview with Andrew Tate. He tackled some of the comments that Andrew Tate had made in the past, controversial comments. But he tackled some of them, and I felt like the BBC could have done a similar thing, but they chose not to. Okay. We're in a situation now where people in China have more trust in their media than the people in the West have in their media in the UK and US. And that just goes to show you how backward we have become as a society. Okay. And unless the mainstream media change their approach, they are going to become irrelevant in years to come. Okay. Now, what they need to do is they need to have structure to their interviews. They need to be balanced. They need to stop attacking people, and they need to stop pushing certain agendas, because the mainstream media do this. They push either the left or the right agenda. Okay, Sky News, BBC, Fox, whoever you're talking about, they've all got to now get on their A game and stop being so biased. Because if they don't, what we're gonna have is a world where anybody and everybody is a news outlet. And the problem with that is, when everybody's a news outlet and the power goes to the people and it's spread out, these people are not going to be held up to the same level of rigor that the BBC, Sky News, and these guys are held up to. Okay? There's a standard that they have to adhere to. And I hope that the BBC learn from this. I hope that the mainstream media outlets stop with their biased reporting, whether it comes to whether it's wars around the planet, whether it's wars in history. They need to stop biased reporting, and they have to go and actually critically look at themselves, or they will become irrelevant and they will be defunded. So I hope you like this video, guys. Please make sure you subscribe and make sure you follow the channel. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover in this video. If there's any comments that you want to leave, and there's anything that you want to just tell me or let me know about, please do so. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, follow me on YouTube. Catch you all soon, guys.